The clips shown in this piece are the property of MSNBC and Fox respectively, and all opinions expressed are the intellectual property of the Laughing Ogre. Now sit back and relax, because here comes the Laughing Ogre! Thank you so much, Real Me, and thank you, YouTube, for tuning back in. It's good to see you again. As we begin to look into this idea of immigration and the ban on people from countries that want to kill us, I just want you to bear in mind that Mr. Kaine has just lost the most important race of his life, and I don't think he's ever lost one before. So keep that in mind as we now listen to Senator Tim Kaine.
Joining us from Capitol Hill, member of both the Foreign Relations and Armed Services Committee, Senator Tim Kaine of Virginia. Very good to have you on the show.
Great to see you,
back,
Senator.
guys. Yeah, thanks much.
Let's jump right into business. You were out at Dulles, is that correct?
Yes, I was out there yesterday afternoon.
Okay,
yeah.
can you help me out? I'm seeing some media reports that are suggesting that the Border Patrol actually did not follow the federal judge's order.
The last time I checked, Donald Trump was commander-in-chief, and he signed an executive order. What would be going on if Baraki signed an executive order and people were ignoring it? They would say it was racist. Are these people racist against white people? What's your problem, MSMBC? You could have just as easily said that they followed the executive order. Why are you doing this, Joe? I thought you were conservative.
In allowing lawyers to get in and talk to people.
To quote Shakespeare, first, let's kill all the lawyers.
I'm also hearing really disturbing reports that when these people that were detained did not have their lawyers, that they actually seized their green cards. Can you confirm either of those two things?
Joe, I have heard that as well. So let me tell you what I do know. There hasn't been anybody detained at Dulles since Sunday morning. But in the early hours after the order went in, there was a huge amount of confusion about it. And we've heard complaints that people's green cards were seized. We've heard complaints that people were forced to sign waivers, that they may have waived special immigrant visa status.
Yeah, and you can also read on Breitbart that some people made claims that the travel ban made their mom die. BS.
And we are trying to get to the bottom of that.
Do you have names of the people whose green cards were seized so they can get those green cards back? Seized, by the way, seized illegally.
A little bit of fake news there. He has no names. There's no evidence. It's hearsay and gossip. Ha!
Right, and look, the whole thing about applying this to green cards and to the special immigrant visa folks who helped our troops on the battlefield, whose lives were at risk, and then we abandoned them in this order is outrageous. But
you mean outrageous like Benghazi? Like your wannabe boss being called so many times and her letting him die? But what difference at this point does it really make, right, Mr. Kaine?
Yes, lawyers at Dulles have been providing names of individuals to my casework staff who were there over the weekend working on this too.
And of course, these lawyers have nothing to gain by giving you a fake BS list. I don't believe it.
So we haven't gotten to the bottom of the individual complaints, but we have at least gotten the Customs and Border Patrol to clarify the application of the order, how it's being applied to green card holders, how it's being applied to SIVs, and that there's nobody been detained at Dulles since Sunday morning. But it was rolled out so poorly that there was massive confusion.
Did any of those officials tell you that the White House had told them or suggested to them that they ignore the federal orders? I know at one point Stephen Miller called around and called them and said, ignore the hysteria on TV. Any evidence of that?
None that I had from being at Dulles yesterday, but I believe that is true.
Mr. Miller's given some really good advice. What do you want him to do? Jump every time you make up a fake-ass news story? Goodness. You believe it's true, Mr. Kaine? You're a judge. You were taught by Jesuits. You believe a lot of things that other people wouldn't believe. People believe a lot of things. Listen, folks, common sense is BS. There's empirical and there's bullshit. This, my friends, smells like a dairy farm. You, Mr. Kaine, are a liar.
Will you be investigating that on the Hill? That a White House official could possibly, a White House official may have actually told federal officials to ignore a federal judge's order?
If it was Barack, it's all they'd talk about, but they seem to be glazing over the fact that this is an executive order being ignored.
Joe, absolutely. This thing was a disaster. It was bad in substance, and it was horribly rolled out. And it does appear that in the first few hours after some of the court rulings in New York and Virginia, the White House was taking a cavalier attitude about it and saying, no, we can go ahead and do it. But
Oh, you loser.
this is what happens when you get important national security policy being made by political hacks instead of by the agencies and cabinet departments that are subject to congressional oversight.
That's what it sounds like when a man that has never lost a political race loses the biggest thing he ever tried to do in his life. That's called sour grapes. Look up Aesop's Fables and read the one about the wolf that or the dog that couldn't get the grape.
The White House has gotten badly burned in this because they didn't pay attention to the people who knew what they were doing, and they listened to folks who approach everything as if it's just another political game rather than people's lives are at stake.
Allow me to translate. I lost, so I've got to say something bad about Trump because I'm a sissy.
Broad question about the future of the Democratic Party, especially given your firsthand experience with what we've all been through. There's so much going on here that we clearly see, places where we can criticize what the administration is doing, but how does the party rebuild? How do you prevent overreach in a situation like this? How do you prevent a continuation of the bubble in a situation like this? And how does the party reclaim its reach across the country while fighting these battles?
Well, let me talk about continuation of the bubble, Mika. This is something I'm so excited about. I saw that Howard Dean tweeted at me the other day, Tim, the base is getting ahead of the leaders. That's exactly backward. We are so excited that the American public is energized to speak out against the abuses of this administration.
Man, I'm so glad this guy wasn't second in line to be president. He's such just a flagrant jerk. Let me translate that also. He's glad that people are rioting in the streets and threatening to murder Milo and that the police are doing nothing about it. This needs to stop, man. This guy it's an active call to violence. It continues later.
Democratic senators led health care rallies, Save Our Health Care, on Martin Luther King Day in about 75 cities around the country, including Richmond. Tens of thousands of people rallied to save our health care.
You mean they came to their senses and wanted to end the one-payer system and go back to just getting insurance? Oh, thank goodness.
And the Women's March that was organized at a grassroots label. Then people coming out and protested these orders. So the way we get outside the bubble is we take advantage of this tremendous public outcry against the administration. What we've got to do is fight in Congress, fight in the courts, fight in the streets, fight online, fight at the ballot box.
That's exactly what happened, dude. Where were you? You lost. We fought. We fought in the ballot box. We fought in the streets. We fought on the internet. And our side won. What he's doing is what the majority of people want it done. Look at the map before you tell me about, the doggone popular vote. It's bullshit.
And now there's the momentum to be able to do this, and we're not afraid of the popular outcry. We're energized by it, and that's going to help us do our job and do it better.
Yeah, just like the night of broken glass and the night of the long knives helped the brown shirts, and Hitler didn't mind, and he wasn't afraid of that. You talk about figuratively Hitler. You even look like him, you Nazi son of a bitch. Man, go away.
Senator Kaine, it's Willie Geist. Good to see you. Just to pick up on your point right there, a lot of people out there in the streets, they feel like they've done their part, and now they're turning to you all to do something about some of these executive orders. What specifically recourse do you have as a United States Senator to stop some of the things Donald Trump is doing out of the White House?
Oh, excuse me. I just vomited in my mouth a little bit there. How is it that these pigs changed their story? What if this kind of demonstration would have been going on when Barack did anything? Racist. KKK.
Sure. Well, just on the executive orders, we've got a couple of things before us right now. We've got the Rex Tillerson State Department nomination on the floor. This executive order about immigration, because it affects our relationship with the world, is exactly the kind of thing that should cause us to really chew up some time on the Tillerson nomination and expose our concerns about the executive orders. I've come out in opposition to the Tillerson nomination. I'm on the Foreign Relations Committee after I asked him a series of questions in the hearing that I didn't feel like he would answer, that I feel like he demonstrated that he still had a lingering loyalty to ExxonMobil rather than the United States. I'm opposed to him.
You would be opposed to anybody that Trump nominated, and you are not worthy to even mention Secretary Tillerson's name. And yes, I said Secretary Tillerson. There's nothing you can do, sissy.
And we're going to use our time and use the nominations going forward, especially 8 key nominations, to demonstrate where we are to contravening these administration policies.
But in terms, Senator, of this specific travel ban, the immigration executive order, do you have to lean on the courts now at this point, or what can you do about it?
We're going to introduce legislation to rescind or dramatically revise it. Now, look, we're realistic. We are the minority party in both houses, but there are a number of Republicans, especially in the Senate, who have spoken out against this. So they're very embarrassed by it. So, look, we'll be pushing legislatively, we'll be pushing in the courts, and we will be energized by this activism.
All right, get out the tinfoil hat. Listen, the New World Order, the Illuminati, whatever you want to call them, the pyramid, the very tip top of the pyramid, the capstone of the pyramid, is shitting the bed right now. They can't believe what's happening. And of course, there's going to be Republicans coming out against it. It is their way to destroy the West and to make us all one vast, humane, ecumenical society, everyone contributing their part.
I'll give you another example. I asked tough questions of Betsy DeVos in the hearing about Secretary of Education. That then led to this 25,000 letters and calls to my office. The single most important issue, if you just measure it by call and letter volume, of anything that's happened in 4 years in the Senate. So there's a connection between popular activism, things we can do here in the halls of the Senate, things that lawyers are doing in court, and it's going to take all of that to put up a guardrail against abuses by this administration.
Casey.
A guardrail against who? Betsy DeVos? She doesn't want Common Core. She wants charter schools she wants all schools and teachers to be judged on merit. Please tell me what's wrong with that. When the unions argue against it, they say they have no merit. I put up Hulk Hogan here, if anybody remembers the old days, back when I was just a youngin' and watched this crap, with his fake, disguise. This guy wears a fake disguise. And underneath of it lies a communist, an evil communist. He was raised by Jesuits. Look into him. They have their ecumenical movement also. They are evil, evil bastards. Every one of them, including Tim Kaine.
Senator Casey Hunt,
hey, Casey.
There is a lot of energy on the streets right now from people who support you.
Yeah, it's because they got so much energy left over from not having a job because the previous administration almost destroyed our country.
But I have a very simple question for you. Who is the leader of the Democratic Party? Who is the leader to capture all of this?
I think that's old-time thinking, Casey. I think it's old-time thinking to think you got to organize this in a pyramid with one person at the top.
Pandering to the mentally enslaved morons that wave signs and have nothing better to do. Pandering, you bastard.
No, I'm not asking about a pyramid, though. I'm saying who can actually take this and push it forward in a real way?
Well, let me tell you, I do think the Democrats in the Senate, because they don't give the Democrats in the House in minority many tools. It's just majority vote, and Joe knows this. If you're in the minority, the majority can steamroll.
Well, we always tell people when they first come to the House, this is not a democracy. It's a dictatorship. Top down.
I mean, it's kind of the way it goes. But in the Senate, we do have the tools. Holds, filibuster, cloture. We've got the ability to shine a spotlight on things, sometimes slow things down, sometimes stop things.
What would this jerk be saying if his side won? And this was happening from the majority Republicans that were in there. He would be talking about how evil they were and they were getting in the way of good policy. Trump promised these things. You said he would not do them. Now he is doing it. And you are crying like a little baby that had their nana taken from them. Do you need your little nana to suck on, you little punk?
And we're going to use all those tools. So right now, Chuck Schumer, the Democratic Senate leader, is the most powerful Democratic official in the United States, and he is organizing us, but also saying, you know, we don't need to just grab the reins away from the grassroots. This grassroots activism is not something where we feel like the base is running away from us. We're energized by this.
If you hung in here this long, I do want to mention this is the Prince of Queens that you can see stuck over my voiceover here. I recommend you go check him out. I believe he's homosexual, at least it says something about that on his... Anyway, he is a homosexual, a white male, with a brain in his head. Go listen to him. That said, let me get back on topic here. Of course he doesn't mind these insane maniacs. Like I mentioned before, this is another active call to violence, saying, go burn cars, we'll keep calling it peaceful protests. Go tear up businesses in your communities. We will continue to call it a peaceful protest. Go and terrorize homosexual men like Milo Yiannopoulos, and we will pretend that it is a peaceful protest. Go beat up white folks and steal their cars. Go torture the black folks by keeping them locked in this plantation and, you know, driving the fathers out of the home. Does everybody out there realize that the black home was the most with fathers in it before the welfare state took over and started kicking them out? They blew us away with family values. Go watch The Cosby Show. That was the real deal up until about 10 or 15 years before that show was made. Dr. Huxtable was not an anomaly. It was just, that's the way a black father was. There, steadfast, always for the family. Now, the government has stole it away.
Senator Tim Kaine, thank you very much for being on the show this morning. Very good to see you again.
Look forward to being back with you guys. Thanks.
Right.
Yes, indeed. Senator Kaine, thank you for showing up. Now go somewhere else. I just want to kind of, you know, let me explain. No, there's no time to explain. Let me sum up. Thanks, Inigo Montoya. So let me sum up. These folks that are not classical liberals like my friend, the Prince of Queens, not classical liberals like one of my personal heroes, the Hard Bastard, not a classical liberal like another one of my someone I look up to, the Britisher, not a classical liberal. Not someone that believes in helping the community, not someone that believes that we should, you know, come together as a community and be there for one another and have infrastructure and have things to fall back on when you get elderly and things to fall back on if you lose your job and things to fall back on if you've broken your back on a railing or something. So there's nothing wrong with that. What's happened is just like please go watch everyone that I just mentioned, but go watch the Prince of Queens. He just put up an excellent, I'd have to pop it up to be sure I get the amount of words right, but an excellent video on YouTube here on his channel that is dealing with the way the left has changed the meaning of words. The SJWs change words. I was thinking 9. I'm glad I looked. It's 8 words SJWs have changed the meaning of. And he breaks it right down, you know, without pulling any punches, without mincing around. And, you know, it's people like this man and Scott Pressler and a few others I could name is why I have a problem saying now that's gay. I'm not censoring myself for SJW reasons. I'm thinking about it because a lot of the gay people I know ain't gay. I don't know how else to say it. And again, remember, if I offend you in any way, offense can never be given, only taken. And it's not my aim to offend or hurt anybody. It's my aim to point out hypocrisy. It's my aim to hopefully fomentate thought and discussion, not to fomentate racial division and class division. These people have an agenda. Look at the way this story went. I'm going to find an old story of Barack Obama, and I'm going to, something that's controversial, because believe it or not, he did controversial things like the Affordable Care Act, a single-payer system. They want to make us like Canada. The problem they're having is now medium and people with, I shouldn't say medium, but people with a upper middle class income, if they're in Canada or in the UK, they can decide to come here. And yes, some of them decide to go to India, because in India, if you're in the hospital, they will take your respirator away from you and give it to a paying customer if you're just there. That's known. Mrs. Ogre's a respiratory therapist. She told me some horror stories. But they want to take away the ability for people to come to this country and to pay for our excellent health care if they don't like the mediocre health care that they get in their single-payer systems, such as Britain or Canada. Well, anyway, it's about time that I put a bow on this. Listen, look at this stuff for yourself. If you're one of these protesters, ask yourself if Martin Luther King would stand next to you while you burn a car, hit somebody in the head with a flagpole, bust down doors, threaten people that are from a very minority class, a gay, white Jew. Believe it or not, he's in the minority. And remember what I say. Be good to your friends, be good to your family. Be quick to say you're sorry, and be even quicker to accept an apology, especially when that thing your friend, family member, or loved one has done seems to be so big. Because in an hour you think not, your friends, your family members, your loved ones, your cause and your life will depart from you. Hey, look, before I get off here, please remember to sub and share. If you like it, or thumbs down it, hey, that's your concern. But I would surely appreciate it if you subbed and you shared and join the fight. You know it's right. Oh no, lights out. I'm gonna punch your lights out. Get up, bitch, and guard your grill. There's something going on and I can't sit still. I've been drinking and busting too. I've been thinking of busting you upside your motherfucking head if your friends jump in. Oh girl, there'll be more. Get and move, bitch. Get out the way, bitch.